Japanese company holds a vote, should high heels be mandatory? The men vote overwhelmingly in favor. On Monday, the dress code changes, and the men are directed to the high heels counter. Tanaka Hiroshi smirked as he cast his vote. Mandatory high heels? Absolutely yes. Around him, his male colleagues nodded and chuckled as they checked the same box on their ballots. The company-wide survey had been distributed Friday afternoon, part of management's new democratic workplace initiative. When Yamamoto from HR had announced that they'd be voting on whether high heels should be mandatory office attire, none of the men had taken it seriously. The women in the office had exchanged knowing glances but remained silent. It's professional, Suzuki had declared loudly from the next cubicle over. Women look more polished in heels. Better posture too, added Nakamura, mimicking an exaggerated feminine walk that made the men erupt in laughter. Hiroshi had nodded along. He'd never once considered how his female colleagues felt tottering around on what were essentially stylized stilts for 8+ hours a day. Monday morning, Hiroshi arrived at the office feeling refreshed. He nodded to security, rode the elevator to the 14th floor, and froze when he saw the banner across the entrance to their department. Democratic Workplace Victory, high heels now mandatory for all employees. Beneath it stood Director Watanabe and HR Manager Yamamoto, both women, smiling pleasantly beside a table covered with boxes. Good morning, Tanaka-san, Director Watanabe said. Please proceed to the high heels counter to receive your new mandatory footwear. Hiroshi laughed nervously. There must be some mistake. No mistake, Yamamoto replied, consulting her tablet. Results show 73% in favor of mandatory high heels. The proposal text specified all employees quite clearly. She turned the screen to show him the exact wording he'd skimmed over on Friday. But I can't wear women's shoes. He sputtered. These aren't women's shoes, Director Watanabe corrected. They're professional high-heeled footwear, sized for men. The vote decided they're now appropriate for everyone. Dumbfounded, Hiroshi watched as Suzuki emerged from behind the table, his face pale. He wobbled unsteadily on glossy black 3-inch heels. The survey results were quite clear, Yamamoto continued cheerfully. Your signature is right here confirming you read and understood the full proposal. Hiroshi felt his stomach drop. He hadn't read beyond the first line. What size do you wear, Tanaka-san? Director Watanabe asked, already reaching for a box. 20 minutes later, Hiroshi clutched his desk for support as pain shot through his calves. His feet were already blistering, and he'd fallen twice on the way to the bathroom. Across the office, men tottered about uncertainly while women worked with practiced efficiency in their familiar footwear. This is ridiculous, muttered Nakamura, wincing as he shifted his weight. We can't work like this. They can't make us wear these, can they? Hiroshi whispered, glancing nervously at Director Watanabe, who was watching the room with thinly veiled amusement. By lunchtime, several men had twisted their ankles. By mid-afternoon, Hiroshi's feet were bleeding. Every step was agony, yet he noticed the women seemed unfazed by their identical shoes. At 5 p.m., Director Watanabe called for attention. Given the difficulty some employees have had adjusting to our new dress code, we'll be holding another vote tomorrow. She smiled. The proposal is to make high heels optional for all employees. The room erupted in relieved male voices. However, she continued, raising her hand for silence, I should note that the executive team is considering several other democratic workplace initiatives. Next week we'll vote on whether makeup should be mandatory, followed by a proposal on required shapewear. As Hiroshi limped to the elevator, his female colleague Sato fell into step beside him, walking effortlessly in her heels. You know, she said conversationally, I've worn these every workday for 7 years. Hiroshi flushed with shame. I never realized how painful they are. Most men don't. She shrugged. But now you do. The next morning, Hiroshi arrived early. His feet were bandaged, and he carried his high heels in a bag, ready to wear them again if necessary. But more importantly, he'd drafted a new proposal, one making all gender dress code elements optional for everyone. As his colleagues filed in, faces grim at the prospect of another day in heels, Hiroshi greeted each man with the same question, ready to vote again? This time, not a single man voted for mandatory high heels. And this time, every man read the entire proposal, word for word.